Okay, how about now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, hello, ladies. Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me be here, and Lashonda for that beautiful introduction. I appreciate you. Um, I I want to start just by saying that this is a judgment-free space. Um, I know when it comes to money, uh, it can be an uncomfortable topic for a lot of us to talk about. And, we're often taught not to, be open about it or kind of keep it on the low, hush hush about it. And it can also just feel stressful and overwhelming or uncomfortable to talk about. So I just want to reiterate that this is a safe space to talk about mindset and habits and freedom. And I just want to lay that foundation here. And my goal is not to, yes, judgment free zone. My goal is not to really for this to be a lecture. It's for it to be a conversation and a space where I can just share my own experience through navigating debt in a way that feels real and hopefully helpful to someone. And so, all that to say, I'm not here as a financial expert. I'm here as someone who has lived this experience and want to share what's worked for me so that hopefully it can work for you as well. So, to progress us forward, let me see. A little bit about my journey. Um, I accumulated 25, $55,000 worth of debt, $55,000 worth of debt between undergrad and grad school. And I was able to pay off of that debt working on a mid range income, $50,000 income back in started my journey in 2017 and completed that journey in 2020. And also throughout that journey, well, after completing that journey, I had the later experience of being laid off from uh, what I felt like was a great opportunity. But being in the financial mindset that I was in, I was able to navigate that layoff because of the foundations that I was able to build. And so that journey as a whole completely changed how I think about money, how I think about how we should be disciplined, and what financial freedom truly looks like. I know, we often see financial freedom portrayed as having, tons of money and, this super fancy job, but financial freedom doesn't necessarily always have to be that. It can be where you are right now and being able to flex and stretch or just navigate what you currently earn in a different way to free up your time and your energy and balance that bank account so that you're not as stressed. So tonight, I want to just kind of walk through a few of the things that really helped me and give you some simple ways to start wherever you are, whatever income level you're at, or maybe not yet, or not at just yet. Um, it's you can start from anywhere. Is all that I want to iterate. Okay, so freedom, financial freedom, I will say starts with a decision. Um, One of the biggest things that I've learned in this journey is that it doesn't necessarily start with the money that you are earning or not earning. It actually starts with your mind. Um, for me, it started with a decision. And at some point, you have to make a decision that you want something different for yourself, whether it's to get out of debt or, get a different job, leave a certain financial situation. Um, you really have to decide that you don't want to live that particular way anymore because making that decision allows you to have your grounding, your footing, and enables you to stick with your decision even when everything else around you is wavering. Um, because to be honest, you can have all the budgeting tools and strategies and support systems at your disposal, but if your mind isn't in the right place, then you're not necessarily going to get to where you want to truly go. Um, you really have to commit to yourself, follow through even when it's uncomfortable, and especially when it's inconvenient. I know a lot of times, at least in my situation within my family, uh, saving and paying off debt can be pushed to the background when you have so many other financial demands and responsibilities that are right in front of you. But it is extremely important to have that cushion and that structure that you're building, regardless of what situation you're currently in, or what you may be facing, because that will give you the stepping stones that you need to get to your next portion of your journey. Um, and I think also too, we also have to give ourselves not only that foundation of discipline, but permission to let things go. For me, I had to give myself permission to let go of the money I was so uh, when I was deep in my debt, I was very scared of letting the money go because I felt like if I let this money go and something happens, I'm going to be, in a bad situation. And I had to have faith that God put me in this situation. And if I let this money go, He was going to replace it. And so we have to let go of the guilt that we feel with wherever we might have dug ourselves, or whatever, financial debts or situations we might currently be in. We have to let go of the shame that is often associated with being not having the best financial habits. Um, and then we also have to let go of the shoulda, coulda, woulda situations where you should have known better, or you feel like you should have known better in a certain situation, and you made a impulsive decision. Because if we're holding on to all these things that we are scared to let go of or refusing to let go of, it weighs us down and it does not allow us to move forward and make financial progress. Let me advance this real quick. Okay. Um, for myself, as I mentioned before, I had to let go of that mindset that I would be lost and in a difficult or strained situation if I were to let go of that money. And I had to let my faith lead my path and allow me to feel safe in making those next steps, even when I didn't know what was on the other side of those steps. I think when we take that leap of faith, step off that ledge, and just trust that we are going to have a soft landing with whatever decision that we make. It allows us to kind of not only free our mind, but allow us to. I was going to say free our pockets, but that's not really the case. It allows, because we're going to have to dig in the pockets a little bit, but it prepares you for what's next. So I want to hear from you all because I've been chatting for a little bit. Um, I want to know what your feelings are when you think of finances. And I want to see you, if you feel comfortable, just drop a word or two in the chat of what feelings come up when you think about your finances. Not enough. Okay. You need more. Anxious. Yes. Strain. Yes. So I have someone who says, can I please say that again? So right now, I want to hear what feelings kind of come up when you think about your finances or just financial wellness in general? Do you feel frustrated? Does it make you feel anxious? Are you scared? Just so we all know where we are. Regrets. Hmm. I see a lot of people wanting more income, feeling anxious about money. Um, and we're seeing a lot of the same words: anxiety, frustration, needing more, not feeling like you have enough. And I wanted us to do just that quick exercise to show that a lot of us are in the same situations where um, there's frustrations and fears that we don't talk about, and you're not alone in the feelings that you have, whether you articulate them to other people or not. A lot of people are feeling the exact same things that you are feeling about finances and your situation. So there is camaraderie in that. And I think once we are able to name, how money makes us feel, we can then work towards feeling the opposite. Thinking of strategies and pathways to help us feel less anxiety or frustration by having a plan in place or a strategy in place that's simple to follow and easy to maintain. Let's move on a little bit. Um, so when it comes to strategy, once I made my own mindset shift about wanting to pay off my debt, um, I had to figure out a strategy that actually worked for me. And you may have heard of these strategies already, I'm sure. But there are two common approaches to paying off debt. You have the snowball method, where you pay off your smallest debt first and then move on to whatever debt is next. You also have your avalanche method, where you focus on whatever your largest debt is, or largest debt or highest interest debt first. And with these two um, options, technically the avalanche method, where you are focusing on the highest interest debt first, it does save you money over time because you're attacking that interest head on. But for me, when I was paying off of my debts, I actually chose the snowball method because I needed that momentum. I felt like I needed to take baby steps to build that confidence. I wanted to see what making little contributions to my debt could do, so I could see that progress quickly and have faith in myself and my path that I could actually do it. Um, and then once I started knocking out the smaller debts within my broader spectrum of the 55K, once I started cutting through those smaller debts, it built my confidence and it gave me the push to keep going and attacking those larger ones. And when it comes to choosing your own method for yourself, there's not necessarily a perfect method. It's just more so about choosing the method that fits for who you are as a person, what kind of mental rewards that you need. Like I said, for me, I needed that quick win right off the bat to make me feel like I was capable of addressing those debts. Let's move forward. Um, and also, too, so when we make our, well, I'll speak for myself. When paying off my debt, I needed not only the motivation of paying those small debts one at a time, but I also needed to feel like I was winning something because, uh, it can be a tough journey. It can be a colder journey, especially if you feel like you're doing it by yourself. And so having that incentive, that you are winning something or, racing against the clock, to beat out against whatever's being accumulated over that time, helped me mentally. And also just keeping track of the debt as it shifted. So, having some sort of financial tracker, spreadsheet, or I used an app, it no longer exists now, but I used an app called mint.com, and it allowed you to link your different, banking accounts or debts to that site and see your entire kind of financial journey at once. And so being able to see that on a daily or weekly basis allowed me to just track my progress and see exactly where I was. And, there are still tools out there like that. That allow you to do that. So, just doing a bit of research on the one that might work best for your own personal situation can be helpful as well. Yes, Mint is gone. It's probably been gone for 4, 5 years now. Definitely has been gone since the pandemic. So I was heartbroken. It's gone. I have not yet found uh, an equal that's as good as it, but I'm still on the hunt. I think Rocket Money is a good one so far. I see someone put Intuit has a comparable one. So yeah, they're still out there. But yeah, Mint was perfect for that debt payback journey. Um, so moving on to uh, lifestyle and living. So I know a lot of times, at least in my situation and in the situations that I've seen with friends and family, we can often stop ourselves from making those financial decisions because we don't want to pause the lifestyles that we're currently living, or we feel like we have to sacrifice too much in order to pay off those debts. And one thing I always like to say is that you don't have to stop living to get your finances in order. I think a lot of people avoid the journey because it feels very restrictive, and it doesn't always have to be. I had those same thoughts initially that if I took this leap and started paying off this massive debt, then I would completely have to remove myself from all social. Yes, Dave Ramsey was the advocate for the beans and rice diet and getting rid of everything, getting roommates. For me, I did not want that lifestyle. I still wanted to live life somewhat on my own terms and not feel like I was going just bare with everything. I want to still have a life and still travel and gave gifts and had enjoyment. You can still do all of those things, but doing it in moderation on a smaller scale and just having more thought and intentionality behind what you're doing makes a huge difference. And when it comes to a financial journey, it isn't about restriction. It's about aligning your goals with where you are currently and making sure that the money that you're making or trying to make is supporting the life that you want to live. And all of that can be accomplished. Um, Typically, even shorter than you think it may be, because, you know, my financial journey of actively paying off of my student loans took, I'll say, about 3 years, but it was actually the financial habits that I was demonstrating prior to starting that journey that equipped me for paying off that amount of money in that time frame. So I think jumping in and staying diligent has a lot more success than you may even realize. And truly, once you get into the process of paying off of the debt, the scariest part is starting. Once you're in it, you want to get done with it, and you may be more willing to take any extra funds to start that process so that you can be fully free, which is where I found myself as well. Just once I got in and got over the scary part of letting go of those funds or adjusting my lifestyle, I was determined to get it done even quicker than I initially set a goal to. I'm just going to check the chat really quickly, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. All right. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay. Um, I want to have us do another interactive moment, but before that, um, I just wanted to kind of emphasize a couple things. So financial discipline, I will say, did not just change my bank accounts. It changed the what's the word I'm looking for? Projection of my life at the time. Um, Back in 2017, when I initially started my loan repayment journey, I was in a job paying $50,000 a year um, that I had on a team that I had been on for a number of years. And um, I lacked confidence on that team despite doing work that was way above my pay grade and not being recognized for it. I stayed in that position longer than I should have because I lacked the confidence that I needed to let go and take a leap of faith into something else. But while going through this financial journey on the side, um, paying off those loans actually helped to boost my confidence in a way that um, made me feel like I no longer needed to kind of beg and plead for a raise, like I had been doing for at least 3 years in that position, and waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen. Because I was on this separate financial journey outside of work, it gave me the confidence to pursue other opportunities. And through building my confidence outside of work, I eventually left that position and was able to then move into a role that um, the first role that I moved into paid $30,000 more. And then 2 years later, I made another move at a different company that boosted me by $50,000. And I had the confidence to do that because I no longer felt financially stuck and burdened by that debt that I was holding on to anymore. Um, and also, just felt confident that if I could pay off that debt and build that confidence on the back end, then I could go out on faith and pursue anything else. And so, all that to say that paying off that debt really it boosts your confidence and your faith in ways that you may not initially see when you first start the journey. Yeah. And then shortly after that journey, I was laid off. So it put me on a completely different journey that I would not have been able to navigate had I not built that foundation and paid off that debt prior to being laid off. During that season of being laid off, I was out of work for almost 2 years. And my lifestyle more or less stayed the same. I was still able to live by myself, take care of myself. Um, I still leaned on my friends and family, but um, I skinnied down my budget so that I was down to just the main necessities. So there were some things that had to change in that respect, but I was able to do that because I had built the discipline and the savings and knew how to manage the money based on paying off those loans for those 2 or 3 years prior to getting laid off. So that's what financial wellness really gives you. It's those options to stay or go, to go to a different job, to take a break from work if you're able, and it's just it opens you up to so many things when you no longer have that burden. Yes, I was taking flights with no job. It opens up that foundation for you to pursue things that you were not previously capable of because you were burdened down by those finances. So, I want to ask another question for some engagement in the chat. Um, If you were financially free, what would you do? Where would you go? Share that with us. I want to know.
Can you ask the question again? I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am. So, if you were financially free, what would you do? What are some passions that you would want to pursue? Where would you go? Where are some places that you would want to visit? Anything. It doesn't have to specifically be those two things, but if you were financially free, what would you do? We have Tanzania first class, Europe, pursuing your creative side, traveling the world, travel more, a lot of travel, travel. Everybody wants to go all over the world. Got it. Okay. Live home in Nassau for 3 months every year so the children can, okay. So the children can have a Bahamian accent. Very valid. Okay. Wonderful. So, all that to say, these should be your why when it comes to your finances. Your why should be those reasons that were mentioned in the chat. You know, you want to travel the world more, you want your children to have certain experiences. That can be what helps propel you forward and help you kind of loosen those reins that you have on, that debt repayment process, let go of those fears. You have someone else who would purchase land, go to school, fund a charity, beautiful things. I love that. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about strategy. So, I missed some slides because I was talking. So for strategy, I always advise people to start simple because I know that in general, thinking about finances and how to corral all that information, what outlets to use, what paths to take can feel very overwhelming. And so it helps to just talk about things in a simplistic way and to start small. So when it comes to finances, knowing your numbers, what's coming in, what's going out, what you owe specifically. Um, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do have to be aware. And, there are tools out there that allow you to, do this hands free so that you're not having to use your own spreadsheets or your brain if that's not what you want to do. Um, Lean on those tools to help you to simplify the process and calculate all those numbers for you. That can be a banking app that you may already have access to. It can be a spreadsheet if you're a spreadsheet person. Apps like Rocket Money or Intuit can be, tools that you use in your back pocket. The goal is to remove the guesswork and see your progress. For me, it helped to see it on a day-to-day basis, but for you, maybe you want to see your progress weekly or monthly. But the point is that you have to see where you are to know where you're going. So putting those numbers in front of you in whatever outlet is most useful for your current lifestyle. And lastly, I am an advocate of not only paying off debt, but building savings in the process. We should always have some sort of cushion pillow to fall on, even if it's small, even if you have to start little by little. Um, Paying off debt and saving at the same time is definitely still possible, whether that is $25 a week, that accumulates over time. Whether you have the capability to save more, that's a great opportunity as well. But having that cushion while you are trickling out money to pay off debt or, pursue whatever financial interest that you are navigating towards. Just knowing that you have that cushion that you're building on the back end is also an opportunity to build confidence in what you're doing and the direction that you're going. And then finally, taking advantage of resources as you are navigating this journey. During my repayment process and also during my season, I call it my sabbatical when I wasn't working, but my sabbatical season when I was laid off, I leaned heavily into libraries, community programs, educational tools, specifically educational tools through my universities, to really help support me and broaden my understanding, not only of what was going on in the world, but any resources that could help beef up my resume, give me access and exposure to financial opportunities, jobs, or just tools, AI tools specifically that I wasn't aware of to help me become a better candidate, but also better steward of my money. There are so many opportunities and programs and free resources out there if you just take a little bit of time to explore them, especially through public library systems. Like it's often a slept on resource that we don't really think about, but they often have even financial courses are often shared through public libraries and universities. So just leaning into those can really be a resource that can support you on your journey as well. And then also, in addition to that, knowing that you don't have to do this journey alone, taking accountability, utilizing your community and support can also help you progress further on a financial journey when you're doing it with a group or another individual. For myself personally, when I was back in 2017, when I started paying off my loan, I started paying off my loans just as a personal challenge for myself, a personal goal for myself. And then eventually I have an older sister, and I told her about the journey that I was going on to pay off my loans. And she also had a similar amount of loans to pay off as well. And so, in starting my journey, she decided to join me in paying off our student loans together, and it became a sort of a competition. And uh, every time I paid something off, oops, my video disappeared. Okay. So yes, I went into somewhat of a competition with my sister during our loan repayment journeys. Every time I paid a loan off, I would let her know. She would let me know when she paid off her loan, a specific loan, and it became a competition of who was ahead of who, and us trying to catch up with each other. And although it was, we were doing a good thing, it just helped to have that additional support. So that's another reason to be transparent with your community, with your siblings or whoever you're closest to about your journey can be helpful, so that you can all take that journey together and all win in the end. I will say, I did beat my sister. I paid off my loans just a little bit before her, so just having that little back and forth with her was a fun to just get through the process of paying off that journey. But I mean, in the end, we both won in that we both finished paying off our loans. And even if you don't have someone to tag along with during your own journey, you can still have that journey with yourself. And even starting alone might inspire someone else to join you in that process later. So transparency is key. And And let's see, one last little tidbit. Um, a lot of times when it comes to um, the financial money mindsets that we have, a lot of times it comes from our upbringing, um, family, fear, lack of knowledge. Um, for myself personally, growing up, I was aware within my family that we had the baseline of what we needed, but um, financial conversations weren't something that happened regularly within the home. And so, because of that, I think my journey started with having somewhat of fear of, talking about finances out loud with others and asking about how things should be done. And that can carry over into our adulthood when it comes to how we navigate our financial situations. So it becomes that much more important, especially if you have children or just, others in your lives who are learning and growing and developing, to start small, start young, and really teach those foundational steps um, to progress you forward, and not allow a lack of knowledge or a seeming lack of knowledge to prevent you from taking those next steps in your journey. Um, it can be, it doesn't have to be something that, we feel shame about. It can be an opportunity from whatever level, from a child, teen to adult, to truly, learn and develop together in that way. So it's just, it is infinitely important to um, be transparent and forward thinking about um, sharing a financial journey, and being consistent with that journey. And my throat got really dry for a second. And like I said earlier, your financial journey does not have to be a perfectly executed plan. You don't need to have a high salary. You don't have to wait for things to be the right time or for you to make a certain amount of money before you start. You can always start where you are. Start with what you have, with the tools directly at your disposal, and it where you are right now is not where you have to stay. Um, Early on in my journey, I remember feeling like, as I was paying, well, prior to starting, really truly starting my repayment journey, when I was just going through the motion of paying my um, monthly loan bill, I felt like I was just kind of tossing my money into a black hole, paying every month, but not seeing anything changing. And I had gotten to the point where I was tired of feeling stuck in that particular situation. Um, and that in particular is the time that I decided that I wanted something different. And that is what made me want to truly pursue that journey of becoming completely debt free, so that I no longer had to worry about feeling burdened down by that monthly payment, and not seeing any progress from it. And so I just want to encourage you to start where you are, to be fully consistent and committed, um, to give yourself grace in the process, and know that small intentional steps over time can completely change your situation, and put you in a place that you were once felt unattainable, and is now within reach. And I think that's all I have for you all. And if you have any particular questions about how specifically to um, research, platforms to use or tools, spreadsheets, I'm happy to share additional information on how I was able to navigate. Um, but I thank you all for allowing me to share and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Valentina Joy. Um, so just a situational question that I'm thinking about. So no matter what my income is, what my bills are, let's just say after I pay all my bills or whatever, I only have $150 to $200. It may fluctuate based on, whether the light bill this month, whether it's winter or summer, basically, so that gives me that little bit of extra. So if I only have $150 to $200 a month, I have debt,
Yep.
right? My emergency fund is not fully funded.
Hmm.
Um, and I like to have pizza every Friday with my family because I just cannot stand cooking dinner on a Friday. Okay.
Hmm.
What do you recommend? It's kind of like one, I guess first would be what would you recommend I do with that extra 150 to $200 that I just have left over from my paychecks? And then two, what kind of mindset shift do I need to operate in to help me maximize my use of my extra rather than setting it into a different black hole, right? Which is like frivolous spending or, okay, I need to get my nails done. Oh, but I have debt and I don't have even $1,000 saved up.
Yeah. I think the first thing always to do is identify what your priorities are. So, with that debt, identify whether if you've paid that for the month. If you haven't, identify how much you need to pay. Um, and uh, then I would say to divvy up that excess fund. So, if I had $150 to spare, I would probably put 25 to $50 aside for that emergency fund, allocate the rest to paying down that debt, and maybe alternate weekends that I'm eating pizza to kind of offset those extra frivolous funds that I may be spending, or find a way to. In this season, you may have to DIY a lot of things yourself. So you might be making pizza at home one week, and maybe the following week you can, buy that pizza, or maybe limit it down to once or twice a month. So just finding small ways that you can still have the joys of that things that bring you smile within your life, but do it in a way that's a little bit more feasible. So it also helps in those situations to pause, maybe even give yourself 24 hours. You may really want that pizza on Friday, but maybe give yourself 24 hours to think about it or to reconsider whether you want to spend that money or not. And sometimes when we pause and slow down, we may find that we don't really need to spend that in that moment. We can find an alternative, or we can make something at home, or we can go to somebody's house who's already cooking and eat there. So,
So y'all hear that? Guess from France. Anybody would like to move to Texas to live by me? Who could cook? If you can't cook, reconsider. Okay? Or sew. Cook or sew. If you go cook or you can sew, there's a house for sale on my street.
hmm.
There's a house for sale on my street. The one we were gonna buy is for sale. Okay? So you could move 4 houses down from me and you know, yeah, work it out. So I like the way you talked about it. I like this kind of leads into my next question. So I like to listen to Dave Ramsey's calls because I
Hmm.
find them fascinating. Um, and one of the calls was from a dentist in South Carolina, and he was saying, they finished med school, they are ready to go dental school, med school for the wife. They're ready to like live life. So he has a luxury car and they have a beautiful multi-million-dollar home and all these things. And they had a lot of debt excluding the mortgage. And so one of the things that Dave said to them was like, I understand. You have been restricted for so long that you just want to binge, like you just want to break out. And of course, we may not be at that level where you are earning, you know, together a household income of almost $1 million, which is what they had. And it's crazy to think that why I like a conversation, this tangent to the question, why I like a conversation like this is because it doesn't matter how much money you make. I personally know people whose household income is near $1 million and their bills are also near $1 million, right? And they're just trying to do right by their kids. They have the best private schools like lacrosse, tennis, like all the things they're trying to make and give their kids the best opportunities ever, like the best school district, the best connections and networks from childhood. And they also have no money. So a lot of times, like, we're like, I need more money, I need more money. But in reality, you would do the same thing with more money that you're doing with this little bit of money right here. So this is
Mhm.
why we have to get things right in the foundation of stuff, right? My other best friend is actually a financial planner. Like, so she deals with people who are like, what do you call them? Not Geralds, not Franks. What are their names? They're rich, but they're not wealthy. There's an acronym for that. I can't remember it at the top of my head. But there are people who have money, they're rich, but they're not wealthy enough to be private jetting and stuff like that. So that's like our clientele base that she deals with to keep them from going back that way and headed toward this way. But for us in a context like this, me who is not currently W-2 employed and several other women already expressing like anxiety, frustration over finances, we're going to leave this talk fired up and excited and ready to go. And some of us may take the road of like, okay, I'm going to cut everything. Like we going low carb, we going zero carb, keto. We going keto with the finances, okay? No rice, no macaroni, okay? Straight keto, chicken and broccoli with the finances. I actually just made chicken and broccoli also not so because I try to be skinny for summer. I just made chicken and broccoli. We going keto with the finances. But the thing about that is that there is an inevitable binging that's going to come. So kind of like, you know, what are we, what kind of guards do we need to keep for ourselves to keep from being so restrictive that we end up binging, right? Like I'm gonna be so restrictive. I'm cutting out I get a smoothie 2 times a week. That's $10, a tropical smoothie, right?
Mhm.
I'm cutting every single thing, but I end up so unhappy. Even
Mhm.
though, yay, I'm getting out of debt, or yay, I'm building some emergency fund. The reality of emergency fund is when the emergency happens, the fund goes back to $0, right?
Mhm.
And then the debt, so much debt. So it's like, how do we keep from being so fired? We're going to be fired up. We're going to be fired up because you just told us you paid off $54,000 worth of debt, making $50,000 a year. So we're going to be so fired up. Ooh, we could do it too. Yes, yes. But how do we keep, what kind of guards do we need to have so that we're not so restrictive that we're gonna inevitably end up binging and unfortunately potentially undoing all the progress that we
Mhm.
make. And then living in that cycle of like, okay, like how people do in tax season. This question is very long, but she's used to this. How people do in tax season, you take your tax return, you may pay off all your credit cards, pay everything, but by the December, your credit card's full again. So how
Mhm.
do we keep ourselves in that cycle?
Yeah, I would say you don't have to restrict everything. Like there's opportunity to pay off debt, to add to your savings without cutting anything and everything. I think what's important is to start where you are. So you can start, it doesn't you when paying off finances, yes, it's important to kind of attack it, with enthusiasm, but you don't have to go on a slash and spree and cut every single little thing, because then you're going to truly be miserable. um, so even in my situation, I could have paid off my loans way sooner had I gotten a roommate, moved to a cheaper apartment, moved back home. All of those things, it would have allowed me to be done extremely fast. But I still wanted to maintain some of my lifestyle. I still wanted my you know privacy, independence, all of those things. So I cut what I wouldn't miss necessarily. So I still needed my necessities, the internet, blah, blah, blah. But I started cutting small. And you can take that same type of mindset to, whatever you're starting. So yes, you have smoothies twice a week. Maybe you just do it once a week. Like it doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of approach. Start small.
I like that. I like that.
Mm.
I could make my smoothies at home.
You could, yes.
Could, but I don't want to. There's like
Mhm.
zero desire. Oh my gosh, to make my own smoothie. It's a wild experience for me. Right? So I'm telling you, someone was like, just make your own smoothie. I was like, what? You want me to do it? You know what stuff I do by myself? I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to do anymore. But I will say too, and I'm finding that several of us are making this shift, is also navigate what you want for your birthday better, right?
Mhm.
Some of the things on my birthday list, like I wanted a Cook Unity gift card, okay? I just finished my Cook Unity meals. Like my friends have been hooking me up because they know I don't like to cook. And if I don't want to cook, what am I going to do? I'm going to get on the DoorDash.
Mhm.
And DoorDash has the upcharge, and then they have the tip, and they have the other stuff. And it's like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? And another thing I think too, if you have an opportunity, one of the things you could do is have a little gig that supports some of those, um, what Dave Ramsey would call frivolous spending, right? Like maybe you have a gig that just covers your eyebrows, right? It maybe only take you an hour or two. And one of the things I know Valentina did, and my other besties in here, I have three besties, y'all. Don't hate, don't hate. I'm very well loved, okay? She's in here, but one thing I know both of them did was they worked the front desk of the gym so they could either have their class for free or have a percentage off of their classes. So if you have the opportunity, like, hey, are y'all looking for someone at the front desk? I want to come in boot camp twice a week.
Mhm.
Like Elon taught us about that bartering services, and you can do that in with legitimate businesses. If you want to go to the gym, you don't necessarily want to pay that big old fee. Boot camp fees ain't no joke, okay? So you can offer to work the front desk. I like that. But what I want you to talk a little more about, Val, is your sabbatical season.
Mhm.
Like, the sabbatical season was when I really saw what you were made of. Like, I was like, this girl is amazing. Like, who is this girl? Who is this girl? I was like, oh my gosh. Like, oh, I know her. I have never seen or gotten to hear of, and I don't know how many of you have someone get laid off and they're just cool for 2 years. And they're not robbing themselves. I want to put that part. She was not robbing her. Like, I ask my friends real questions about their bank account. They could ask me. Like, I tell the people my business. I tell you how much money I got in savings. I tell you what happened when I lost my job, how I watched the stuff dwindle, how I think. I'm honest with my friends, and I love that for me because they give me wisdom, they give me support, they give me feedback, and they help me to grow in that. But I was so, there's like a time you see a part of your friend that just really leaves you in awe of them. During your sabbatical season, I just really gained a new respect and admiration for you because I just had never seen somebody get laid off and not be in the throngs of struggle and not be almost homeless, right? And not be stressing out, your hair falling out, you're losing all the weight. Everything is happening because you're just freaking out. Talk to us about that experience and just go a little bit more in with what it took. I know you mentioned, touched on it, but what it took in order to be able to be okay in a season like that and still thrive when a lot of people will be crashing and burning.
Mhm. Yeah. Um, so I will say initially, of course, when I got the layoff news, uh, I did have a brief crash out moment where I freaked out and, was scared and, what about my insurance and all this and that. But yeah, thankfully, the layoff that I had did come with some severance money. So I essentially started applying the same principles that I was using when I was paying off my loans to the money that I then had in that moment after being laid off. So even while increasing my income within that position that laid me off, I was still somewhat maintaining the same lifestyle and finances. So I wasn't what's the term? Not living beyond my means. So I was staying within my means even before being laid off. And so on a monthly basis, max, I was probably spending no more than $3,000 a month on everything. So that was rent, that was car, that was gas, insurance, all of those things. Once I got laid off, I cut back what I could again. So I cut down, paid apps, Spotify's and things like that. Things that if there was something that I could get free, then I got it free and I cut that out. I kept all of the necessities, of course. So, you need a place to live, you need internet, electricity, all of those things. But yes, maximizing the freebies, looking into those community resources. And one of the things that really helped me during that season to kind of stay mentally well was to and I was still paying for this for a while, but continuing to work out, move my body and exercise, and not hiding from what had happened. I think initially when I got laid off, I had a lot of shame involved in, what had happened, how I was feeling, how I thought it would be perceived. But once I started putting myself back in the world, continuing to exercise and be in that community, continuing to attend and pour into my Bible study community and sharing with friends and family, what I was experiencing, how they could help me specifically during that time. That help was coming in the form of like job recommendations or, you know, links to different opportunities. Just leaning into that really helped me stay grounded and focused. Um, okay, this is a good question. Let me see. What percentage of your pay did you save on a monthly basis? Oh, okay. Let me think back. If I would, so this job in particular, this was the season where I had jumped significantly in income. So at that stage, I was in like the 150 range, 150K range. And I was actually saving the majority of my check. So a lot of taxes would come out of that check, of course, but a lot of taxes came out, but I would make sure to allocate all of my necessities, which, like I mentioned, was like between 2,500 and 3,000, and then saving a large chunk of the rest. And I would say if after taxes, if I was bringing in, I don't know what it exactly was, but let's say if it was like 6 or 7,000, 2,500 to expenses, I was probably putting $3,000 into high yield savings. And then the remainder kind of flex money might have just been kind of like play money in between. But large chunk, whatever I could put into savings, I was putting into savings already, putting into savings and investment accounts. And I've still maintained the same investment accounts from when I was laid off from that particular job. So that's kind of stayed on the back burner since then. But for me, I always had the mindset of like putting aside whatever I could into savings so that, I was always saving for a rainy day. And that layoff became my rainy day.
I mean, not to always save for a rainy day and the hurricane came, mother sick. Well, hurricane season is every year. It's coming in one way or another, eh? Back to school is very expensive. Back to school for me is like $1,500 preparation for three children.
Mhm.
That's not, if their hair gets done professionally, that's not back to weekly gas. That's just supplies, uniforms, shoes, and
Mhm.
then you also need to have winterized stuff because the size they start summer in is not the size they're going to be in December when winter comes. So the rainy hurricane season gonna always be there. That's the point.
Mhm.
Hurricane season gonna always be there. But you touch on something that I really love. So even in the season, no matter what was going on, you were contributing to your investment accounts
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Even
you
in
did
the
not touch those.
Mhm. Yeah. And honestly, during the season of abundance that I had prior to being laid off, I was saving a lot, but then I also felt like I was giving a lot too. So, giving a lot back to my parents, giving gifts to friends, things like that. Um, and that was, I think that being able to sow in that season to other people while also saving, it gave me the confidence that I could do all of those things at the same time. It's not like you have to do, if I'm saving right now, I can only save. If I'm, paying off debt, I can only do that. Like, I don't want to say you can have it all, but you can have it all. You really can. You just can't have it all in huge amounts, but you can piece it all into smaller categories.
Because you did that, girl. Ooh,
Yeah.
child. Okay. If there was an award to give out, I was going to give you an award because you did that, honey. I love that. I remember I called her and I said, I was getting concerned. I was getting concerned. I called, I said, hey, you need some rent money or something? Because she hadn't told me she got a job yet. So I'm like, how long has it been? I said, God, my friend's still paying her bill. I said, girl, I said, hey, you need some rent money or something? So she was like, no, I'm good. I'm still good. I said, okay, your retirement, are you touching the retirement? Like I was asking her all these questions, but you also need to have those kinds of relationships, right? Like where someone is going to be willing to ask you, do you need some rent money? Because even though she is making significantly more than me, if I could step in and I had it to step in, I was going to pay her rent for if she needed that. That's a fact. I was going to pay that baby rent, okay? She can tell you if anything was going on, I was pulling up the road with some oxtails in my car and driving up to go to her house, even if it was only for 5 hours. I was driving there, stopping by, and hitting the road back home. But I was like, I said, are you touching the retirement? I asked her to ask real questions, and she was like, no. And everything was just like, no, I'm okay. I was like, what? What manner of life are we living here? Okay. Yeah, listen, I was so impressed. I love that. So even as you were paying off debt, you were still contributing to your retirement. Because I know a lot of people say if you're gonna pay off debt, hurry up, pay off your debt. Don't contribute anything to your 401k or anything like that. You were still contributing even in that period.
Yeah, I was, but like I wasn't doing I think prior to really thinking in on that debt repayment process, I was paying probably what the threshold was. Like at that time for that job I was in, it was like 6.5% you can allocate to whatever. So I was paying that into retirement. When I decided I was going to go all in with paying off debt, I reduced that down probably to just 1 or 2% of my paycheck or however it was. Um, but I still never stopped. I just reduced it down to a few dollars. But because I never stopped, once I was done paying that portion off of that debt, I just kept it rolling on, paying into my retirement. And, I feel like when you stop something completely, it can be hard to want to jump back into it. And like, especially once you've made that milestone, you just want to be free with your money. But if you still have that habit on the back end and you just reduced it down, but you didn't get rid of it, it's easier to pick it back up and just keep it going.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Look, we learning some things, y'all. So you see that? What I like too is that she lived in the fullness of her life, right? She dealt with the past, which is getting the debt,
Hmm.
lived in the present, which is I got to pay my bills and I still got to live my life. And she made sure to continually contribute to her future.
Hmm.
And I think that's also, you know, one of the things that we have to think about when we're talking about money in a spiritual way, because if you don't deal with the past is going to steal your future,
Hmm.
right? Because at some point, it's going to get to a point where especially if you're in America, they could garnish your wages, they're gonna crash out your credit score. Like any amount of things could happen. And even if even if you need to take a loan or something from your 401k, you want to have to take it out for something that it was really, really needed, not for something that you could have been handling and dealing with all along. And I love this discussion of pacing yourself, of
Hmm.
knowing and discerning what to cut. Because I recall a scripture I was reading where the Bible says if you gain wealth quickly, right, it's wasted. Easy come, easy go. We know that's the same with a diet, right? Everybody who was on keto is fat again. Okay? They are. They are. Okay? because you want to lose 30 pounds in 15 days, you'll be fat again. Okay? You want to radical, go crazy, go hard, just restrictive on the debt, then you find yourself binging, right? It's just what as it is in the natural, so it is in the spirit. It just is the same in every kind of way. When you come into something too quickly, you're not able to build the capacity to handle the end point. You can't rush up to the top of a mountain. The air is different up there. You're going to faint, right? Even if you ain't trying to, even if that wasn't your intention, you're going to faint. So I love that Val is stressing for us. See, let me be professional. Valentina is stressing for us that like navigating a journey with wisdom, knowing how to leverage your preferences with your necessities, like what you need to do. So before we let you go, Val, talk to us a little bit just about life after the sabbatical now. Like sabbatical is over. How is Val moving? Like what are some of the that you can share publicly, of course, because it
Mhm.
will be on YouTube if you don't want your business there, whatever. But that what are some of the like new priorities for you? Are things kind of it's the same priority
Mhm.
that you're dealing with now? And how is life kind of shifting? Do you have a new vision, a new dream, something else to reach for that's kind of like fueling your financial efforts?
Yeah. Um, so life now, I am in, I guess they call it like well, I don't have children, but I'm in the season where you are caregiving for parents. So it is a different beast in itself in that I am now, in addition to just rebuilding my own finances and, trying to strive for my own goals, I am also trying to relearn and teach my parents how to navigate their own finances in a more streamlined and modern way. They are very much kind of pen and paper, uh, writing on, in a book with how to track everything. And, I'm trying to teach them ways to streamline that process, simplify that process so that, you're not chasing these dates and these numbers. And it is, oh Lord, it's a lot. Because they are stubborn and I got my work cut out for me. But so that's one thing is helping bringing my parents along in this financial journey and helping them tackle some of their debts as well and reset some of their habits. It's really not because I'm stressed out. I got gray hairs everywhere. Um, but helping my parents navigate their own financial journey along with me. I have I've started I'm a contractor. I've started a new position that is a contract consulting position that is not only demanding, but has put me in an uncomfortable space of growth that I am navigating and fighting through. But I know that, I've been placed here for a reason and I'm just trying to stick with it and keep my job. Um, and then also, and this is a more recent goal that I'm working towards. Let's see, I'm 35 now. Um, I want to be a millionaire by 40. So
Oh,
that's just, yeah. And that's like an accumulation of like savings, savings accounts, retirement accounts. Like that's not cash. But that is something that that was put on my heart and mind to strive towards. And if I can teach others as I'm learning, then that's definitely something that I want to do. I will say I'm going to start my financial wellness coaching again, but that may come in a couple months, maybe a month or two, because I have to navigate this consulting work first. But there's a lot of things happening, and a lot of things that I'm navigating. A lot of parents and children that I'm raising. I have a niece now, so working through that. But it's a busy season. It's a busy season. Before it was a quiet season. It was a slim season, an abundant season. Now it's a busy season. So that's what I'm working through
I just love it. Oh yeah. I'm so excited. I love rich friends.
right now.
Yes, yes, yes. I love it for me because guess what? When people go ahead of me, sometimes it's easy to lean into jealousy, right? Or comparison. But the way I see things, especially as a woman and where I'm at, I love having forerunners. I just love having me a forerunner. Go ahead, learn all the lessons, clear down the pathway. This is biblical. The Bible says you must run ahead and clear the pathway so the person who's coming behind you can just walk straight. I love having me a forerunner. So when it's my turn, I have someone to ask. And I don't have to be ashamed or afraid. And this is why we have to talk money as women of God, as friends. You have to talk money. You need to know what's going on because while it may not be the season where I can be like, okay, I want to be a millionaire by 40. That may be a goal, but it may not be where I am because you all know I ain't got no job right now, right? And I need $3 million like yesterday. However, but when she's aware of what I desire, what I need to be doing, and what's going, then she's able to say, "Hey, friend, this is a tool I found that speaks exactly to this." She's able to say, "Hey, friend, how's that journey going? How's that? Have you been able to be consistent?" Like we have to start talking money amongst the girls, y'all. We must. It's so, so necessary. And I want you to note what she said. What she has done is a repeatable result, right? Her sister joined in on the journey. They made a little competition. And her sister also is sabbatical queen. Okay.
So I forgot to mention too. So I was laid off in 2023. My sister was laid off 2021, something like that. So we had both finished paying off our loans after before we were laid off. But there were seasons where there were times during her sabbatical where she started getting a little skimp on funds. So I was sending her money. And then when my sabbatical came, there was a couple months where I was like, I was always okay, but I was like, I could use a little more. And she would come in and, so it just helps to be transparent in that way and have that accountability partner, even if y'all are not saving each other with random, cash apps.
Please
But
cash out people randomly. Please. Okay. I just need us cash out. We got to be sewing into one another's life. I don't care if it's
just having that
smoothie
support.
money. Yes. Please
Well,
cash out each other randomly because that also helps the next woman let her guard down and say, this girl is really invested in my well-being. She's really bad. She just want me to have a little smoothie.
mhm.
But when I can't even do it for myself, I can come and say, girl, this is what I'm navigating, not to dry bag, as Judge Mathis is call it, right? Not dry bagging. But she's so invested in your well-being because she cared about what you wanted, even when you were able to get it for yourself. That when you don't have it, she's gonna be someone that can stand in the gap with you. Okay? So y'all, come on, man. Send somebody a little $2, man. Okay, in this season, you just never know. Okay, so LaPortia, yes, LaPortia, we gotta get rich friends. I'm telling you right now. I'm telling you, I'm so impressed by my friends. They can tell you I'm very impressed by these people. Oh my God. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. So LaPortia said she just opened a new account. Um, she loves Ally. Is it Ally or Ally? It doesn't matter. But she said, what are your thoughts about Capital One?
I'm looking at my phone to see which ones I have. Let me see. I have. Oh, did you say Capital One? I do got
Hmm.
Capital One. Okay, yeah, I have Capital One. Ally. I have Chase. I had Fifth Third, but I just got rid of them. Ally, Chase, and Capital One is the ones I have.
Okay, girly.
Are these for your high yield savings accounts you have those ones for, or just in general?
So the Ally is for a high yield savings account, and Capital One is is another high yield savings account.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I have Capital One as well for
Mhm.
mine. Um, and I really, really like them.
And when I was on the hunt for high yield savings account, actually just based it off of whichever one was giving you the highest yield at the time, because they ebb and flow, and they're always in competition with each other. So if you just Google high yield savings accounts, they'll give you like the top 10, and that's how I started mine. I just picked from that lineup. But I like Ally specifically because they have a feature where you can bucket your savings. So say you're saving for a car, or I'm saving for taxes, saving for a car, a house, whatever goals, you can bucket them. And then as you're saving, you can make sure that those specific savings are allocated to those buckets. or if you need some money to come out of a particular bucket of money, you can, pull it out of that specifically as well.
Oh,
So
I like
just a way
that.
to-
I have to
yeah,
get me an ally because I got to save for my trip to Tanzania.
yes, yes, you
Yes, y'all know I got to climb Kilimanjaro.
do.
Okay. I got to save. I like that one. See, thanks for asking that question, LaBorsha. So now I know something.
Yeah, but Ally is pretty consistent in their being one of the top um, for having the high yield. So I always advocate for that one because it has an easy platform to use too.
Awesome.
I also have Credit Karma. That's not for high yield, but that's for like money tracking. That one's okay. It's not as good as Mint was, but Credit Karma, Rocket Money, and YNAB, which is You Need a Budget, are three good apps to look into. And I'll type those if that's helpful.
Okay.
YNAB.
You need a budget.
And